Hi, I'm Rachel Morgan, and this is my digital summary of learning for ECS 210. I'm going to get right into it. So first, I'd like to talk about the evolution of my current understanding. Before this class, I understood curriculum as exactly what it sounds like on a piece of paper: the outcomes, the indicators, the physical document. After this class, I now understand that curriculum actually has a long history of differences of theories, and that it's applied and absorbed in all kinds of different ways, and that curriculum itself is equally as susceptible to change from province to province, to country, and just as susceptible to biases within its content, especially in terms of advantaging one group and disadvantaging another. So I'd like to start off by talking about the original design of our school systems as being oppressive. So previously, or at the beginning, when they decided that they would organize schools together, instead of considering the child at the center of that framework, they saw the child as being completely removed from it. And so I can't fathom that now as an educator going into the world, because children are kind of at the center of practice. But at that time, schools served a purpose, and that was to produce a specific kind of person that would then serve a specific system. And the problem with that is that is the foundation for the schools that we have now. And we see reverberating tones of that everywhere, from standardized testing to how influential funding structures are in terms of the kinds of education that we're receiving, the future that is shaping us up towards, and the kinds of things that it's actually taking away from us. So the second conversation I'd like to have is question number 2, my approach to curriculum and how it's been influenced by this class. So the two most influential things that I took away from this class were actually the research that I did for the very first assignment. I learned a lot of things about my approach to curriculum and how important it is for me to make sure that I am including content across the board that will give everyone instruction. We learned a lot about common sense and how nonsensical that concept is, that everyone learns differently at different places, and that we're not all walking into that classroom with the same amount of knowledge, and I need to be very mindful of presenting the same knowledge to everyone. Secondly, from the assignment, the very first assignment, was my work with Maxine Green and Dr. Albert Bandura. And so Maxine Green focused on an anti-racist philosophy of pedagogy, and she used literature to take yourself out of your current socioeconomic and cultural situation and put yourself in the shoes of someone who might be in a disadvantaged place. And by doing that, it causes an inner acknowledgement of the hardships and of the realities of that life. And with that understanding, we can then go into our classrooms with a much less racist pedagogy, being more understanding of difference. Secondly was the social cognitive theory by Dr. Albert Bandura, and I found this incredibly interesting, and I researched it quite a bit. And basically, it posits that the individual itself is at the center of all of this. So we have Piaget and Vygotsky and all of the other theorists that looked at the behaviors and how that influenced learning. But the social cognitive theory puts it all together and then acknowledges the individual as well. So the agency that we have ourselves in being able to succeed has to be a part of what's acknowledged in the classroom. I need to make sure that my content that's delivered is going to create students that want to learn, that want to succeed, and that are motivated internally to do those things. The third conversation I'd like to have is about the uncomfortable learning that I experienced, or the cognitive dissonance. So that's defined as being an inconsistent state of thoughts, beliefs, and is generally viewed as being uncomfortable. And I experienced this about 3/4 of the way through the term. So prior to this class, I had had a certain amount of optimism that I would be able to make a really big change, that I could go into a classroom having learned all of these strategies from the University of Regina and this program, and that I would be able to make a rippling difference across the systems that I have internally identified as being racist and oppressive, and that I could go out there and be that voice of change. But unfortunately, about 3/4 of the way through the term, I realized that because school systems are suspended within this nexus of other systems that are all equally racist, or even further traditionalist in their views, and not leaning towards the progressive liberal ideologies that bring the person into the picture and not just the dollars. And I realized, unfortunately, that I don't feel anymore like I can make any kind of a difference apart from this small environment of my classroom. And I understand that is a big change, but it's hard to sit here and learn over and over again about how disadvantaged particular persons of our society are over and over and over again, and know that I'm never going to be able to make a change any more significant than making a child's day. Well, that's all for me. Thanks so much for listening to these conversations. I thought that this class was quite meaningful and that the content that I engaged with really influenced my current perspective and philosophy moving into the real world. And I certainly hope that I continue to grow and challenge things. I feel like the most significant life lesson I walked away with from this course was to be critical of everything, and not in a negative way, but in an informed way, and how important that is, especially in the world that we live in today.